The robe is borrowed. The shoes are stolen. The knowledge, entirely made up, but no one seems to notice. Or maybe they do, and they just don't care anymore. It's 13:48, and everything smells like vinegar, smoke, and the wrong kind of silence. You weren't a doctor yesterday. Yesterday you were sweeping ash from a tavern floor. Or maybe you were hiding in a cart of onions. It's hard to remember. But this morning, someone called you physician. And the way they said it, hopeful, desperate, afraid, you didn't correct them. You nodded, and that was that. Now you carry a stick, a long one, for pointing at things. People seem to expect that. You've also tied a bundle of herbs to your belt, mostly for the smell, partly for the effect. The city is quiet, except for the moaning and the bells. Always the bells, tolling for the dead, or maybe for the pretending. You walk carefully, with slow importance. That's part of the job now. You've seen the real doctors, the ones who wore long-beaked masks and charged a fortune. Most of them are gone. The masks didn't help. So now it's your turn. You, in your onion-smelling robe, your borrowed shoes, your head full of confident silence. You're going to heal people. Or at least you're going to look like someone who might. A woman kneels beside her child, eyes red and swollen. She grabs your hand, presses it to his forehead. You don't pull away. You don't speak. You just hum, low and slow, as if you're listening to something deeper than breath. Something only doctors can hear. You have no idea what you're doing, but no one else does either. And that makes you the most qualified person in the room. You lean in. You squint. You poke the child gently with your stick. Then you say the most useful thing you've learnt so far. It's too early to tell. The mother nods, as if that means something. She whispers a thank you, presses a piece of dried pear into your hand. You accept it like a relic. Then you walk away, slowly, important again. You pass other doctors on your way through town. Some are real, some are pretending better than you. One is drunk and wearing a colander on his head. Another chants at a pile of fish bones. You wonder what they know that you don't. It doesn't matter. You're already halfway through your second day on the job, and no one has questioned you yet. You might be getting good at this. Or maybe the world has simply gone soft around the edges, melted by fear and fever, bent by grief and prayer, and in that bending it's made space for people like you. For now you are the hope they can see, and that makes you dangerous, important, alive. So you square your shoulders, hold your stick like it means something, and step forward. You're not a doctor, but you look like one, and in 1348 that's more than enough. You wake before the sun. The sky is grey and pressed flat, like damp cloth on a fevered brow. Your mouth tastes like copper and cabbage. You sit up slowly, trying not to disturb the rat asleep beside your foot. It opens one eye, then closes it again. You take that as a blessing. The floor creaks when you stand. Everything creaks, including your knees. The robe is still damp from yesterday's rain and now smells like broth gone wrong. You keep wearing it anyway. You're a doctor now. Doctors wear robes. Outside, the streets are soft with ash and wet straw. A chimney has collapsed somewhere nearby. Again, no one rushes to fix it. There's nowhere left to rush. You pass the bakery. The door is bolted. Someone has drawn a red X across it. You try not to look too long. At the corner, a dog is howling at a barrel. The barrel appears to be winning. You nod to the dog. It stops for a moment, then continues. Everyone is coping in their own way. At the edge of the square, a woman is waving at you. She's missing a shoe and half her hair. You wave back stiffly, like someone who charges for handshakes. It's important to look busy. She limps over, clutching a cloth-wrapped bundle. Inside is a boy, maybe 7, breathing like the wind is stuck inside him. His eyes roll. You crouch beside him, adjust your expression to something vaguely priest-like, and you listen, not to the boy, to the mother. "He was fine yesterday," she says. "They always are," you reply, gravely. You pull a scrap of rosemary from your pouch and hold it under the boy's nose. He sneezes. She gasps. You nod, like this means something. It doesn't. You lift the boy's hand, feel his pulse, or pretend to. What are you supposed to feel anyway? His humours are disturbed, you say. It's the imbalance, of course. You don't explain further. She doesn't ask. You wrap a strip of cloth around his wrist. It's mostly clean. You whisper a fake Latin phrase under your breath. Somnificus spirare purgare. She crosses herself. You bless the boy with your stick. Then hand her a sliver of ginger and say to boil it in wine. You have no idea if that helps, but it sounds expensive and hopeful. She presses a boiled egg into your hand as payment. You tell her to keep it. She insists. You accept, slowly, dramatically. You are, after all, a healer of men. By now a small line has formed. Someone with a toothache, someone with a twitch, someone who just wants to talk. You see a man who's turned green, and a woman who smells like onions and regret. A child with a frog tied to his chest. You don't ask. You move down the line with steady, deliberate steps, touching hands, tapping foreheads, murmuring the same 3 phrases. It's too early to tell. The worst has passed. You must burn the sheets. They nod every time. People trust anything said with a whisper, especially now. A beggar asks if he's going to die. You pause, tilt your head, then say, "Not today." He smiles, toothlessly. That might be the best thing he hears all week. By mid-morning, your robe is heavy with damp. Your feet ache. Your stick is sticky, and your boiled egg is missing, possibly stolen, possibly blessed and repurposed. You choose not to investigate. Instead, you stand in the middle of the square. Take a deep breath. Let the ash and rosemary fill your chest. The wind carries a sound, distant bells again. You don't know if they're ringing for a wedding, a funeral, or another quarantine. It hardly matters. Everything overlaps now. Sickness, superstition, ceremony, one long, foggy ritual. You look down at your hands, calloused, trembling, slightly yellow. They do not look like a doctor's hands, but they've fooled everyone so far, even you. Someone offers you a piece of pie. You take it, slowly, because slow equals wise, and wise equals safe. The morning is done. You have diagnosed 14 strangers, blessed 6 beds, and invented 3 new Latin phrases. You haven't saved anyone, but no one's asked for a refund either. In 1348, that's a successful start to the day. There are rules, you've decided, unspoken ones. The kind that drift through ruined streets and settle on the shoulders of people who are pretending. Rule 1, always carry a book. It doesn't matter if you can't read it. The leather should look cracked, the pages stained. Bonus points if there's a ribbon tucked somewhere inside. That way, when you open it dramatically, no one will ask questions. Rule 2, don't walk too fast. A hurried doctor looks worried. A slow doctor looks wise. You take long, unbothered steps now. Occasionally, you pause to look at the sky, as if interpreting invisible omens. Really, you're just tired, but no one knows that. You found yours in an abandoned monk's cell. It might be a recipe book, or a list of sins. You've decided it's medical, because now you're the kind of person who makes those decisions. You tuck it under your arm, not too tightly, just enough for people to see it. People respect books, even if they're written in languages no one speaks anymore. You adopt a frown, a gentle, thoughtful frown, the kind scholars wear in tapestries. People start bowing their heads when you pass. One man kneels. You help him up and check his pulse. You don't need to, but you do it anyway. That's what professionals do. You've started saying things like liver wind and melancholic dampness. You've also taken to nodding after your own sentences. It makes them sound truer. Sometimes you whisper to your book before answering questions, even if the page is blank, especially if the page is blank. Someone asks if they should bleed their grandmother. You tell them, only under a waning moon. You don't know what that means, but they thank you like you've saved a life. You accept this gracefully, like someone who's used to being thanked. By now you've invented your own mixture of smells, a sprig of thyme in each sleeve, lavender oil behind the ears, and a pouch of vinegar-soaked rags at the waist. It makes you smell like medicine, or possibly soup. Either way, it's convincing. You try to remember what you've seen other doctors do. You copy their posture, the way they purse their lips, the way they sigh as if the weight of the world is pinned behind their eyes. You practice that sigh. You get better at it every day. In the afternoons you make rounds no one told you to. You simply appear like smoke or clergy. Tap your stick on a doorway. Look inside. Offer a diagnosis in 5 words or fewer. Too wet inside. Too cold in the bones. The lungs have wandered again. You suggest hot cloths, sweet wine, prayer, not necessarily in that order. No one asks for proof. They're too busy holding on to hope like it's the last candle in the room. At one house, a woman insists you saved her cousin. You don't remember doing that, but you smile and say, he was strong-willed. She weeps. You hand her a pouch of rosemary and lie about dosage. Then you walk away slowly like your feet are heavy with wisdom. Someone gives you a coin. You stare at it for a long time. It's your first one. You didn't ask. They just pressed it into your hand, like a confession. You keep it in your sock. It feels strange, but also correct. That night, you sleep beside the fire in a stranger's barn. The air smells like wet hay and singed feathers. Your stick rests beside you. Your book is a pillow. You dream of leeches, not in a scary way, more like pets or colleagues. In the morning, you'll do it all again. Carry the book, mutter the words, nod at pain, prescribe a handful of herbs and a soft tone of voice. You're not a doctor, but you are becoming something like one, a quiet shape moving through disaster, a robe, a frown, a ritual. You are becoming necessary, and in 1348, that's what professionalism looks like. You've started keeping a list, not on paper, that's expensive, and you're not entirely sure how to spell, but in your head, a catalogue of cures, things that might help, or at least won't make things worse. Your first creation was ginger boiled in wine. It smells wonderful. You prescribe it for everything, chest pain, stomach rot, marital tension. You've also mixed lard with crushed nettles, rubbed it on a man's feet who said the plague was climbing up his legs. He said it tingled. You said that meant it was working. He died the next morning, but the tingling was real. You've become fond of vinegar. You soak rags in it and hang them around sick rooms. People say it cleanses the air. You like the way it makes your eyes sting. Feels like something is happening. You once watched a barber pour hot oil in someone's ear. The person screamed, then stopped moving. You've never repeated the method, but you've described it dramatically more than once. People love a story. A priest gave you a pouch of dried toad. You thanked him and haven't opened it. You plan to save it for a patient who looks especially difficult, or especially rich. Your most successful invention so far is the pungent poultice. You don't reveal the ingredients, mostly because they change every time, but it involves sage, old bread, and anything that smells like authority. You wrap it in a cloth, tie it with twine, and press it firmly to the patient's chest. Then you say the same phrase every time. Now we wait. It's become your catchphrase. You say it after treatments, before meals, during awkward silences. It works in every situation. Doctors, you've realized, don't need results. They need phrases. One woman brings you a bottle of something thick and yellow. She says it's from her uncle's foot. You nod as if she's handed you gold. Then you suggest burning the bottle, and the uncle. You're invited to a gathering of local medical professionals. It's just you, a drunk monk, and a man with a crow on his shoulder. You sit in a circle sipping boiled turnip water. Everyone takes turns describing their newest cure. The crow man recommends shouting directly into a wound. The monk swears by singing psalms backwards. You mention the vinegar rags. They nod. You're one of them now. You start selling small bundles of herbs wrapped in waxed cloth. You call them plague preventers. People wear them around their necks. One boy ties his to a goat. You tell him that's clever. It's not, but it keeps him quiet. There's a man with a swollen neck and leaking sores. You poke him gently with your stick. He doesn't flinch. That's never a good sign. You offer him warm ale and tell him to sleep by an east-facing window. He says thank you. You say now we wait. Later that day, someone offers you a cure they swear by. Boil 3 mice with rosemary. Rub the broth on your gums, then pray until sunrise. You write this down, not because it's useful, but because it's oddly poetic. You've learned to keep a certain expression on your face, a mixture of concern, patience and slight constipation. It reassures people, even when your only advice is try lying down. You once told a man to bury his shoes in consecrated ground. He did. Claims he's felt lighter ever since. You suspect it's psychosomatic. You don't use the word, you just nod slowly. There's a rhythm to your work now. Wake, walk, diagnose, invent. The ingredients don't matter as much as the manner. The show, the slow tilt of the head, the way you hold the bottle to the light, the pause before you say That's what they're paying for. The pause, the the chance to believe, if only for a moment, that someone knows what to do. You're not healing people. Not really, but you're giving them something else. A ritual, a performance, a shape to the chaos. And in 1348, with death on every doorstep and saints worn smooth from prayer, that's sometimes better than medicine. You mix one more paste before sunset. It smells like mint and regret. You don't name it yet. You want to see how the patient reacts first. Then, with your hands stained green and your sleeves stiff with dried concoctions, you sit by the fire, wrap your cloak tighter, and scribble notes into your fake book. You don't know who you're writing them for. Maybe yourself, maybe posterity, maybe some poor fool 100 years from now who finds this book and decides to become a doctor too. You hope they enjoy the vinegar. It happens just after breakfast. You're chewing something vaguely bread-like when a whisper passes you in the street. A real doctor's come. You don't react. You keep chewing, slowly, thoughtfully, as if your mouth is busy with knowledge. But inside, your stomach folds in half. You glance toward the square, and there he is, cloak like black velvet, beak mask glinting with brass, a servant trailing behind with jars. He looks like a shadow that learned to charge money. You've seen his type before. Educated, expensive, and deeply convinced that leeches are the answer to everything. He walks slowly but not like you. You walk with performance. He walks like someone who owns the stage. You adjust your posture. Tuck your book higher under your arm. Sniff your vinegar rag just in case. You've built something here. A reputation, a persona, a small empire of suggestion. And now this plague peacock has arrived with his fancy herbs and actual training. The villagers gather around him, whispering. You hear someone mention your name, followed by the word pretend. It cuts a little, but only a little. Because you're still here, still alive, still walking. And for most people in 1348, that's a better resume than any diploma. You move on, out of the square, back toward the alleys where the soot is thicker and the air more forgiving. There's a woman waiting for you by a shuttered window. She's holding a sack. Inside it is something writhing, possibly a cat, possibly not. She asks if she should bury it or burn it. You tell her to do both. She thanks you like you've solved something ancient. Superstition is everywhere now. Hanging from doors, tucked under pillows, painted on the sides of carts. You see a boy with garlic braided around his head like a crown. He says it keeps the demons out. You tell him he looks regal. He beams. Demons beware. Someone nails a toad to a church door. Someone else buries coins under their goat. You nod approvingly at both. You've started writing new symptoms in your imaginary journal. Haunted ankles, inverted soul gas, excessive breeze. No one questions them. They sound medical enough. Later you pass a woman stirring ashes and humming backwards. She tells you the real cure is bone dust mixed with morning tears. You say of course. She offers to trade you some. You give her a sprig of thyme. Everyone leaves satisfied. You learn that the real doctor is hosting consultations in the rectory, by appointment, with fees and rules. You operate differently. You operate under hedges, in barns, behind bakeries. You accept eggs, kindling, and loaves that might be bread. Your waiting room is the entire village. One night you're called to a cottage near the woods. Inside is a girl with her hands bound and a priest at her side. They think she's possessed. You check her pulse. You look into her eyes. You hand her a sweet. Then you turn to the priest and say, "It's not demons. It's bile." He blinks, crosses himself, leaves the room. The mother weeps with relief. You wrap the girl in rosemary smoke and whisper your best Latin nonsense. She smiles. You pretend not to notice. Word spreads that you cured her. They call you the doctor who banishes spirits. You don't correct them. You never do. A week later, the beaked doctor leaves. No one knows why. Some say he caught the sickness. Some say he got bored. Some say he was offended when a child asked him why he didn't smell like soup. You return to the square the next day. Stand where he once stood. People nod at you again. The frowns soften. The whispers turn back to gratitude. You don't feel victorious, but you do feel solid, like a piece of the town now. Not a visitor, not a liar, something in between. A man with a mole shaped like a turnip hands you a bundle of dried flowers. He says it's for protection. You tuck it into your cloak and tell him it's working already. In your journal you write, Day 17, still not a doctor, still pretending, still believed. You close the book, press it to your chest, and let the village breathe around you, soft, superstitious, safe, in the strangest possible way. Evening comes slowly now. Like a nervous guest unsure they're still welcome. The sky bruises to lavender. The air turns heavier, like it remembers something you don't. You walk with your stick in one hand, your book in the other. Your feet ache in a way that feels deserved. Your robe is streaked with soot, sleep, and someone else's blood. You don't know whose. You've stopped asking. At twilight, the requests get stranger. People don't want diagnoses. They want comfort, a ritual, a person to blame or forgive. You visit an old man who refuses to lie down. He says dying is something you should do standing up. You sit beside him anyway. He asks if you believe in spirits. You say, only the loud ones. He laughs, then coughs, then stops. You stay with him a little longer. Even after his wife gently closes his eyes. You trace a symbol in the air, it means nothing. But the way she clasps your hand, you write it down for later. Sometimes people don't want you to do anything at all. They just want you near, as if your presence weighs more than the air, as if pretending to heal is enough to hold death off a little longer. One girl gives you a drawing. It's supposed to be you. You know this because it's labelled Docteur. You have 5 arms in the picture. You tell her that's exactly right. You visit a home with 2 brothers. One is sick. One is terrified. They both ask the same question, again and again. Will he get better? You say the line you've memorized by heart. Not today, but maybe tomorrow. It works. Every time. No matter what happens next. Sometimes you're too late. You walk into a room and know it immediately. By the stillness, by the open window, by the way no one meets your eyes. You still touch the body. Still murmur something Latin-sounding. Still bless the hands, the feet, the brow. Because that's what you're here for. Not to save, just to soften the edges. You make up a new word that evening. Calorosa. You say it means blessed by warmth. You write it into the book and use it 3 times before bed. Everyone seems comforted. You dream about the first patient you ever lied to. The boy with the breath like broken glass. You told his mother he would be fine. You meant it. She believed you. He died. You wake up with that lie still in your mouth. It tastes like ash, but it's a familiar ash, one you've grown used to carrying. Later that day, a woman stops you in the lane, says her son's fever has broken, says your poultice worked, says you're a miracle. You try not to look surprised. You try to smile like a man who expected this all along, but your hands shake as you take the gift she offers, a clean apple wrapped in linen. It smells like a story with a happy ending. That evening, you sit by a half-burned chapel. You write, Day 22. I've failed as much as I've helped, but I am still asked for. That must count for something. You close the book and look up. The stars are starting to blink open, soft and bashful. You wonder how many of them are watching. The bells ring again in the distance. Someone has died. Someone always has. But the tone is different now. Less like alarm, more like acknowledgement. You lean back against the stone, breathe in the lavender air, exhale whatever's left of the day. Your hands smell like rosemary and regret. Your eyes burn from too much smoke, but your heart has learned to beat through pretending. And at twilight, that's more than most can claim. You lie awake on a bed of hay, listening to the soft shuffle of rats in the dark. They're polite rats. They keep to their corner. You've named one of them Thomas. You think he respects you. The fire has gone out. You didn't notice. Too many thoughts crowding the edges of your mind. You try to sort them, but they keep shifting, like fog over cobblestones. The night is long, too long. You try counting things, patience, poultices, mistakes. You've stopped remembering names, faces blur, except for the ones who looked at you like you were salvation. You remember those. Some part of you still hopes you were, even once, even accidentally. A dog howls in the distance. Someone coughs. A cart creaks past, carrying something wrapped in sheets. You close your eyes. When sleep finally comes, it's soft and strange. You're wearing real robes. Not patched ones, but silk, lined with fur. You're standing in a stone room filled with books. A student calls you master. You nod, of course. You always nod in dreams. Then you wake up, and it's cold again, and the fire is still out, and Thomas has left. You rise slowly, stretch like someone who deserves the morning. Your knees disagree. Outside, the streets are quieter than they've ever been. Not peaceful, emptier, like the plague has moved on, leaving behind only ghosts and garlic. You wander for a while, stick tapping out your rhythm, book pressed close to your chest. A man stops you, says thank you. You don't know why. You nod anyway. He walks off smiling. You pretend that doesn't feel like medicine. Another house is marked today. Red paint, broken door. You don't go in. Not every wound needs witnessing. At midday you sit on a wall and write, Day 28. No miracles, no arrests, no proof. But still, here I am. You think about what comes next. When the fever leaves, when the people leave, when there's no one left to believe in your voice, your stick, your book. What are you then? A thief? A fool? Or something stranger? A ghost who got away with it? You don't have an answer, but you do have another patient. A young girl with a swollen eye and a chicken under one arm. She tells you the chicken is part of the cure. You agree. You touch her forehead, whisper something in your best priest voice. Tell her mother to brew a tea of chamomile and patience. They call you a genius. You accept this, humbly, and take the egg they offer, still warm. As the sun dips, you walk back to the barn. The door squeaks, the hay sighs. The air smells like smoke, sweat and time. You sit. You open your book. You write your final entry. Day 30. I was never a doctor, but I was something, and something was enough. You place the book gently beneath your cloak. Close your eyes, and listen to the wind brushing the walls. The world feels slightly quieter now, like it's resting too. You don't know what tomorrow will bring, but tonight you were believed. And sometimes that's the kindest kind of medicine. You breathe out, slow, soft, still pretending, but now almost believing it. The world didn't end. Not today, anyway. The fires burned down. The fever eased its grip, and the last bell rang softer than the ones before. No one crowned you a hero. No one built a statue. Your name won't be written in any church record unless it's by mistake. But people smiled when they saw you coming, and paused a little longer when you left. You walked into the darkest chapter of a crumbling century, armed with nothing but a stick, a stolen robe, and a willingness to pretend. And that was enough. You weren't a doctor, but you gave people something to hold. A face that looked like help. A voice that carried words, even when they meant nothing at all. And sometimes that's the closest thing we have to healing. Not all stories end in triumph. Most of them don't. But they still matter. Especially the quiet ones. The half-true ones. The ones no one teaches in school. Because those stories are made of us. The wanderers. The whisperers. The ones who try. Even when we don't know how. So rest now. Close your eyes. Let the wind carry you to safer places. You've worn the robe. You've carried the book. You've stepped into the shoes of the unknown, and found a strange kind of comfort there. And when you're ready, there are more shoes to try on, more lives to slip into, more softly lit corners of history waiting to be wandered. So stay tuned for more quiet nights, more second-hand robes, more strange and sleepy stories of what it was like to be someone else. Good night, Doctor. You did well, even if it was all pretend, especially because it was.